Well, today we're talking to my good friend Phil Ranta, who is the COO of a augmented reality startup called Wormhole Labs. But before he went into space, he's been around a while in the digital creative world, and we're excited to have you here to talk about all this, Phil.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is a real delight.
Well, first of all, it's early here and earlier where Phil is in Los Angeles, dedicated during the pandemic, 7 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I've been up for a few hours. I'm blessed enough to have two babies that wake me up. So I've got alarm clocks that keep me going. So
well, I was wondering why you picked 7 a.m., but now I know you're filling that time.
this is the middle of the day for me. So I'm good.
Perfect. So, before we get into the wormhole, which is totally fascinating for me, tell us a little bit about what you did recently at Facebook with Facebook Gaming, because that's amazing.
Yeah. So I was the head of Gaming Creators North America at Facebook Gaming for a little over a year before I joined Wormhole. My focus there was to find programs for the 750 million gaming enthusiasts that access a Facebook platform every month. One of our big areas of focus was game streaming, where I helped set up the celebrity streamers program that brought on the likes of Ronda Rousey and Disguised Toast and Corinna Kopf. And then also scaled the program. We about quadrupled in size while I was there.
Wow.
And since I left, it's, I believe, tripled in size again during the
Wow.
pandemic because a lot of people are watching live gaming streams. So
Right.
that was a really fun ride. A lot of hands-on work with streaming creators and building a program from the ground up within an ecosystem like Facebook is a real trip. Lots of stories there.
Oh, I bet. I bet. And you're saving those for your book.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But before that, talk about let's go back to way back in your comedy programming life of Super Deluxe.
Oh yeah, that was so.
Yeah.
I've been in the digital content world about 15 years, which to some makes me a bit of a dinosaur in the social video space. Like right when MySpace video started growing, which was kind of the first social splashy social video virality thing, that's when I
Right.
joined the market. And at that time, I had shot a pilot called Party Animals. Right after season 1 of Reno 911, semi-scripted was super hot, right? We
Right.
just get a
Right.
bunch of funny improv comedians together, put them in a context, shoot a bunch. Mini DV was cheap, and then you could edit, and then make really funny stuff.
Right.
So I shot a pilot called Party Animals, which was about incoming freshmen who were documenting themselves coming to college as kind of the big men on campus. And then, of course, they're freshmen, so they get a hard dose of reality. It was really funny. I went back and watched it recently and I was like, wow, we were really onto something. Tim Robinson was actually in it, who
Oh
then
wow.
later did
Right.
a stint on Saturday Night Live, and he now has his own Netflix comedy show. So he was 24 when we shot it. We were really onto something. And it sold to superdeluxe.com, which at the time was Turner's kind of incubator. So if something wasn't quite ready for Adult Swim or CBS or TBS, they would put it on the internet on superdeluxe.com, hope it goes super viral, and then hopefully upstream it. So we did 6 episodes there, and then unfortunately Super Deluxe shut down, rolled into Adult Swim.
Mm.
But it was great because it really kicked off my career in digital that I'm now in today.
Right. Right. So let's move forward from there for the time you were at Full Screen. Can you talk about how that was going and what were the trends at that time and how things changed?
Yeah, so really interesting time. So it's hard to tell that story without telling the story right before it. In the
Okay.
2008 crash, digital companies were all seen as very risky. There wasn't a lot of monetization options out there, and the industry kind of went away for a couple of years. I don't know if you remember that, but
Mhm.
like every startup just tanked. And I was at a company called Viva Vision that was doing content for mobile phones. I was running the production division over there. That company went away because the iPhone came out and
Okay.
apps became free. So I kind of found myself in this market where I had all these skills in digital and I had absolutely nothing to do with them. So luckily, I was a comedian by night at that time. So I started going to do comedy on cruise ships.
Oh,
So I spent 2 years doing that, touring with the Second City Troupe on Norwegian Cruise Lines,
cool.
which was great. It was a cool fallback career, but my heart was really in digital. I'm one of the few people that became a comedian as a fallback. Usually you have a fallback from being a comedian. But after a couple of years on the boats, the digital market was starting to come back, and I saw what Machinima was doing.
Mhm.
They were kind of the first what they call multi-channel network, where they worked with a lot of YouTube creators to grow their presence and monetize their channel and kind of build a network around themselves. And through that collective bargaining, they can sell big branded campaigns and everybody wins. A lot of other people were taking notice too, and two companies sprang up called Maker Studios and Fullscreen, which were kind of like the first followers of Machinima. So I thought that was a really interesting market. I really liked what Machinima was doing. To be honest, I applied at Machinima, Maker, and Fullscreen at that time because I'm like, this is a genius idea, and I
Right.
love independent creators and democratized media. Fullscreen was the first one to call me up. I went into a tiny one-room office on the Hayden Track here in Los Angeles. Met with the CEO and COO, told them a little bit about my background, and they said, well, we're looking for two sides of the business. We're looking for someone to run the brand side, and we're looking for someone to run the creator side. Sounds like you have experience in both. Which one would you want? And I said, well, I think I'd like to run the creator side. And then I joined, and we became the #1 network in the world 7 months later, and sold to a joint venture between Chernin and AT&T 3 years later. So it was a very fast grower and kind of defined the next evolution of my career, which is more business side, talent oriented, democratized media, monetization stuff.
Right, right. Yeah, that's we have a YouTube channel, and
Mhm.
the amount of people since that have the MCNs that want you
Yeah.
to join, and so it's still out there. I mean, people are
Yeah.
still part of these networks because of that collective sharing, if you will, to help elevate everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the idea of it still works. It kind of died out a little bit because there was a lot of bad practicers in the market.
Hmm.
Like people doing 50-50 splits on AdSense, and then they
Right.
would never call you again, and they'd roll up tens of thousands of channels, and like it really hurt the market. But I'm sitting on the board and advisory for one of the biggest MCNs in the Middle East called Elfon Network.
Uh-huh.
And they're doing it the right way. And I feel like there's a fair amount of people out there doing it the right way,
Okay.
where it's like it feels more like a scaled management company where you're
Hmm.
doing a layer of almost like 360 management, but not quite, where you're actually like producing projects with people and sending them reports on how to grow every week, and giving
Hmm.
them ongoing brand deals and tool sets. The
Oh,
people who are
nice.
still doing that are doing great. The
Right.
networks that weren't doing that just kind of
Hmm.
went away.
Yeah, they sold you up a big bag of dreams and
Right.
didn't bring you anything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because being in a network unto itself doesn't get you anything, right?
Right.
You need to be getting attention once it's kind of like signing with CAA. I have a fair amount of friends of mine in the entertainment industry that's like, if I could just get an agent at UTA or WME or CAA, my career is going to skyrocket. It's like, no, if you're on the bottom of someone's roster, you can maybe expect a phone call every month where they say, "Hey, I'm still rooting for you," and then that's
Right.
that's it. That's what you get for your
Mhm.
10%, and then they're hoping you go and book yourself or go blow up. The goal is to be on the top of somebody's roster
Right.
at wherever you. So maybe a smaller agent where you can be top of roster, rather than a bigger agent where you're at the bottom.
No, that's great advice, right? And I think some people miss out on that. Where's the best place for me
Yeah.
based on what I have to offer to the people that are looking for something that I have to offer?
Right. Yeah, it's still a
Yeah.
relationship game. You need to just because you get an agent or get a manager doesn't mean they love you. Like if they love you and they want to push you, then you'll start getting the opportunities. But if you're just like,
Right.
well, this person's on season 2 of a TV show, maybe they'll get a season 3, so I'll sign them and then hope for the season 3, but not do anything, and they'll get my 10% of that. There's a lot of managers and agents that are thinking that way, and you want to avoid those people.
And you know a lot about that because you also spent some time at a place called Studio 71.
Oh yeah. So Studio 71 was also a multi-channel network model, kind of like full screen, but also came from a management background. They were previously the collective. So they were more of kind of like top tier talent, hands-on management. They did some 360 management. And we were big into developing our own projects. So we did movies, we did TV shows, we did premium content shows. As the chief operating officer over there, I heavily oversaw the network side, so the MCN side of it, network ops, so claiming and all of that. Pretty much anything that was kind of more digital nerdy, that was my lane.
Uh-huh.
And the stuff that was a little bit more like Hollywood sales, that was Reza and Dan, who were the CEO and COO and president's lane. So yeah, it was 3 years there, scaled the network from about 1 billion monthly views to about 7.5 billion monthly views. And did a lot of really amazing projects while I was there. I'm very grateful for that experience.
So tell me, because you did, there was talent there too.
Yeah.
What were some of the criteria that you looked for, or that people would look for in finding who we're gonna back and bring into our fold and
Yeah.
help develop?
So I'm a very process oriented person, so I need things to be in kind of web flow charts in my brain.
Okay.
I'm actually not a very creative person, and I've realized that more and more as I get older. What I'm really good at is kind of breaking things down into almost like math formulas. Like when I did comedy, every joke to me was a formula. Like, here is the setup, here's all the preconceived notions on something for that setup, and here's potential twists on each one. Now, which one gets you from A to
Yeah.
D better? Like, that's how my brain
Right.
works with comedy. So I don't think of myself as a creative person. So when I signed people, it was one of three things. So either they had so much scale that I think we could develop that scale and sell it in interesting ways and package that scale. So if you're like a kids channel who it's hard to monetize, it's hard to put brands into because they're a kids channel,
Right.
but I can like see this TV show they can sell, or we can like do licensing deals with Netflix or Hulu to help corner that market. If I saw that kind of vision, then
Mm,
I would sign them.
okay.
Or if I saw an incredible amount of true talent. So they were somebody who like they only have 20,000 subscribers, but they're really onto something, and the premise is so good it sings on the page, and I can put it in front of brands and say start partnering with them now because they're going to start growing, or look at what premium content they can have that we can run as pre-roll and then we can sell it in that way. That was really interesting to me. Or number three is if it's somebody who their individual brand is so strong that I think that even though they might not have the most scale in the world, and they might not have, say, the most true talent in the world, like I can't get them acting in something, maybe
Right.
they're a vlogger or a personality, that's when you can kind of bring them in and say like, okay, you've got a spark. How can we find different ways to incorporate that spark into different lanes? So it
Okay.
was one of those three things. Most of what the MCNs wanted was scale
Mhm.
because that's how they made a lot of their money was from AdSense. That didn't interest me as much as the other two.
Right, right. So, how would you go about hearing about people that were, maybe at the 20,000 subs level to then move them up? And
Yeah, especially at that time, Reddit was huge for me. I lived
oh,
on Reddit. So if something was kind of going viral or being really buzzy, I would look back to who the creator was. Like, I'll give you one example. At Studio 71, this wasn't my sign. Somebody else signed, John Carl, who's now at Brandon Entertainment Network, genius in the space. Find him on LinkedIn. But John Carl started working with this guy named Mike Diva, who an amazing, just like modern day filmmaker. Like it's
mhm,
almost like gifts in motion. Nobody is more of a director that like feels like the internet than Mike Diva.
okay,
Didn't have incredible scale at that time, but really, really impressive creative mind. Now he's like done commercials for everything from LA Metro to because he just like he's a viral machine because his style is so like computer forward and crazy. And so yeah, it's I forgot where that question began, but
where do
uh
you find people that are
yes,
below the radar, if you will?
but I believe where John Carl found him, maybe it was before this, but I remember the first time he was on my radar is on Reddit.
Mhm,
He did this like Donald Trump video
okay,
where it was like a Japanese, you'll have to look it up. Look up
okay,
like Mike Diva Japanese Donald Trump, I think would be the search
okay,
terms. And
okay,
it's like this kawaii style Donald Trump campaign ad all in Japanese that's done like almost like anime live action.
uh-huh,
Very kind of critical of him, but in kind of like a fun, kawaii, weird way. Like, you know,
Okay.
it's hard
I'll
to
find it.
explain. He's
Right.
so visually like, he's just the most creative person I've ever seen. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is the future of filmmaking. It's kind of like watching a Michael Bay music video on MTV in the 80s, where you're
Okay.
like, this person has a style. And I don't know what this does yet. But or David Fincher, who also did music videos in the 80s on MTV. Like,
Uh-huh.
they've got something where, you know, in 10 or 20 years, they're going to be like defining what cinema and TV looks like for us.
Right. Right. Amazing. Yeah, that's good to know, the little places to make sure you blow up, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like,
Right.
going, it's not just going viral, right? It's just getting eyeballs on it. It's no different than the film festivals that I kind of came up with when I was in film school.
Right.
It's like, back then, early 2000s, of course, but back then you didn't have the internet content yet. So you literally took your movie and you shopped it festival to festival, just trying to
Right.
get eyeballs on it. You're
Right.
doing the same thing on the internet. You make a great piece of content and you're trying to place it in front of people to get eyeballs on it. And hopefully you get the right eyeballs eventually.
Right. Well, we did an interview with one of the actors in Lovecraft Country. You know,
Cool.
if you watch that on HBO,
You bet.
and she was talking in a native Indian dialect, and so what she did provide to us was the actual the script and the translation, because you didn't see really the translation
Right.
whenever she was saying that. So we shared it because there's a lot of conversation about this show on Reddit, and we shared
Yeah.
it on Reddit, and that was the biggest amount of traffic to my website for
Wow.
anything. And
That's
I'm
great.
telling you, we've had this website, entertainment news, for 11 years,
Wow.
and only one other post went that crazy. I mean, and it was weeks and
Wow.
weeks and weeks of
Yeah,
traffic.
when you
So
catch on Reddit really is the front page of the internet in a way that,
right,
like, a lot of people say, well, Facebook's kind of the front page of the internet. Look how many people access it. But, like, for true internet junkies who are
right,
looking for the voice of the internet, it
right.
really lives on Reddit still. That's my first read every morning.
Yeah, no, if I had as much time to spend on Reddit, because I go there and I go down a rabbit hole. I just
Yeah.
end up there I'm like, I have to pull myself out.
Right. That's the fun of Reddit. Like, I try to keep my media consumption diet low because I live the internet. The internet is my life, it's my career, it's my fun
Right,
time. Like, I'm spending all day every day on the internet, and I'm not just doom scrolling. I'm like
right.
constantly absorbing. I'm a little hyperactive as a person, so it's good for me to have that kind of outlet. So I have
Mhm.
to, like, go on Reddit in the morning, read my tube filter in the morning, like read TechCrunch in the morning, keep that to a half hour total, and then put
Right.
it to side and ignore it. And then, of
Mhm.
course, check Twitter trends throughout the day because you have to know
Right.
what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's you're 100% on that. And I think everyone should have some kind of rituals where they're keeping up with the important topics that
Yeah.
relate to, where you are in your career.
Right.
Excuse
Right.
me.
Yeah, media consumption diets are something that I'm obsessed with because a lot of people are doing it wrong right now and they're not extracting joy from the internet. Whereas
Mhm.
if you say, well, how do I extract joy from the internet? How do I give myself the right amount? Understanding that the internet is designed to be addicting, it's
Mhm.
designed to keep you hooked,
Right.
but eventually you stop getting that joy, right? You have to,
Right.
even somebody who lives the internet, I have to say, all right, I'm going to this for this purpose and going to this for this purpose. And I pre-write my LinkedIn posts and I pre-write my tweets, and I'll
Right.
have like 20 minutes of interaction time before bed to make sure that I'm answering back to the tweets that come to me. And then I have to
Right.
be done. I
Right.
can't keep going.
Right. Oh, I'll tell you, I'll sit here at my desk, and at 6 o'clock, I'm like, crap, I'm still sitting here at 6 o'clock, and I've
Yeah.
been here since 4:35 a.m.
Right.
And then the next thing I know, it's 8 o'clock, and I'm like, oh my God, what
Right.
am I
Yeah. You've
doing?
got to be able to put it down. It's not good for your brain to keep doing that. Study
Or
after study will
eyeballs.
tell you that it makes you sadder. It's, media consumption is a double edged sword, like
Right.
anything, right? Once you get to addiction zone, you got to put it away.
Right, exactly. And with what was happening in 2020,
Yeah.
for the most part, you know, I think you were drawn to more of that, which is, as say, more people are, depressed because of all the time that
Yeah.
they're spending on it, and seeing, doom scrolling is a perfect
Mm.
caption of that because
Right.
I mean, at some point, I was like just snoozing people because
Hmm.
I don't need to see the same post 100 times about
Right.
one thing, right?
Yeah.
So, like on Facebook, so going to other mediums where it's
Mhm.
not so, doom and gloom
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
is
try to
something that
limit
people
my
need to do, right?
right. I limit my Facebook now to Facebook gaming to check up on the creators who I met while I was there and loved, right? I try other than that, I'll write posts, I'll share cute pictures of my kids, I'll do,
Right.
because Facebook is really what I use for like friends and family.
Right.
So as soon as somebody becomes abrasive on that, if they're a high school friend of mine I haven't seen in 20 years, gone, right? Like
Right. Right.
86, gotta go. This is my like joy area. As soon as it's no longer joy area, it goes. Twitter, LinkedIn, that's where I'm like, I'll mute people, but I won't unfriend because, if I find their political views abhorrent, but I still find
Wanted,
them to
yeah.
be valuable business contacts, then,
Right.
I'll just mute them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So, talk a little bit about live streaming at Mob Crush.
Yeah. Yeah. So once I did the MCN thing for about 7 years at Full Screen and Studio 71, I'm somebody who likes to learn and I like to see what markets are growing. And this would have been 2016 or 2017, maybe 2017. And Mob Crush, the CEO is a guy that was the CRO over at Full Screen back in the day. We got along really well. And he needed a talent guy to come in and kind of build and run the network. What Mob Crush did is they had a really interesting technology that allowed you to concurrently stream to many platforms at once
Oh,
and then get
nice.
the comments from all those platforms into one unified system, which a lot of things do that now, but back then it was a very kind of breakthrough system. I say back then like it wasn't 4 years ago, but internet time, that's forever, right?
Right, right.
What they were doing at the time, and I still think there's little bits of what they're doing, is then building ad technology. So not only can you stream to many platforms and get comments from many platforms, but they had a way to kind of like overlay ads and do scaled branded shout outs for streamers across many platforms. So went in, helped them build the product, helped them scale the network, helped them launch something called MobCam, which was the non-gamer version of that. It was all IRL streaming.
Okay.
So we got like the Try Guys to use it, and Laura Cleary and a bunch of other stars through our VidCon activation. But we started scaling the network so quickly that that's when I started getting known as somebody who could come in and scale streaming networks, and that's when Facebook came knocking on my door.
Ah,
And
okay.
even though I loved Mob Crush, it was an opportunity that was too big to pass up.
Yeah, Facebook's a little big.
Yeah. So once the recruiter reached out to me and said, like, we're looking for somebody to run gaming creators over here. We hear you're doing an awesome job there, and we see your talent management background. It was really, I had to go hear them out. And what I heard, I liked.
Right. Awesome. But now let's go into space.
Yes.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
Wormhole Labs. First of all, great name. I love it. It
Thank
just
you.
sounds way out there, and you want to go for it. So
Yes. No,
tell us.
it's kind of, so as I mentioned before, I like kind of new technologies and kind of hockey sticking technologies. And I saw this convergence of a few things happening. One is this concept of the metaverse is starting to become more real. And what the metaverse is people becoming avatars in a virtualized world and being able to navigate in a very human like way to consume content and shop and chat. So instead of things being feed based, they're actualized like more like the real world. A lot of people point to like Snow Crash or Ready Player One, if you've read the
Mhm.
book or seen the movie. Like that's kind of the future theory of the metaverse. Right now, we're not quite there yet. It's more like Fortnite feels a little metaversey, and Roblox and Minecraft. Like you're an avatar that's about exploration. There's a lot of ways to change that universe. What Mob Crush had built that inspired me to come over is a way of building a user generated metaverse. So people can hold up their phone and spin around in a circle to create a capture of their environment.
Okay.
Those captures joined together in a global mesh to recreate the world, kind of like Google Street Maps, but in real
Right,
time.
right. Okay.
And then a bunch of cool information is brought into that world, like social media posts that were taken at that location and a live video that was taken at that location. And people can chat as avatars and design their own avatar. And people can what we say wormhole or immediately teleport to different points all over the earth to discover different people and see what's going on in India, and then see what's going on at the Super Bowl, and then see what's going on at Coachella. And you can kind of navigate the world in that way. Very, very cool futuristic stuff that as soon as I heard about it, I said, we have to try cracking that code. And it's been a very fun ride for 9 months.
Oh yeah. So tell me, are there privacy concerns? I mean, if you're capturing your environment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's video, or does it convert it to a different? It converts it to more of a um, animated type of world, so
Yeah,
it's
well,
not
so
so.
when you're taking the what we call the smart bubble, just the
Okay.
environment around you, that's a still. That's like a captured moment in time. However, it comes to life with all of this interactive content and other avatars. And so if you think about it kind of like a level in a video game, right? That's creating the
Okay.
level, the
Oh,
environment
okay.
that's
Okay.
around you.
Uh-huh.
Yes, privacy is absolutely a concern. So we will make it easy for people to flag bubbles of private spaces they don't like. We make it easy for them to be able to take the bubbles down that are infringing on their rights.
Mhm.
It's kind of like Google's Street View, right? Like we make sure that we have all the same fail safes that they have.
Right.
You can take video and then drop it inside, and much like other social media, people can kind of take the video that they want, but there's the ability to flag and have a takedown. So
Okay.
privacy is really important to us. If people want to explore the metaverse but not show up as an avatar, and we have kind of have 4 modes, right? We've got the super social mode, and then we've got the friends only mode, and then we've got the I'm invisible mode. You can
Mhm.
still use it without kind of being showing where you live, for example.
Okay. So you can be visible to everyone if you want. So
Yep.
everyone who uses the app, or you can just be with your friends. Right.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So the
So
way that I would use it if I was sitting on my couch at home is not saying I'm in super social mode, because then people would be able to see I'm on my couch at home. But I
right.
can wormhole or kind of teleport my avatar to Berlin, for example, and then
Right.
become super social there because you don't see me on the
Oh,
couch, you see me in
right.
Berlin then. So
And you think you're a world traveler, and
exactly.
can
And then you
chat
can
with
like
me.
meet some. I feel like it's important to move towards a future of a metaverse because it creates a more empathic social media, right? Because you're
Mhm.
actually going to a place and seeing real people as real people. And
Right.
that makes it a little tougher to be like, you're an idiot or screw you, like it is on feed based platforms.
Right. So if you're are you talked a little bit about activations, or maybe added that into my head, but are you doing activations? I know like Fortnite had an activation, and other
Yeah.
games like bring in a celebrity to, like kind of have an event. What kind of activations or, things that are you bringing into Wormhole?
Yeah, so we're still in our beta, so we haven't
Mm,
done them yet.
okay.
However, we do have a couple of B2B contracts I can't quite talk about yet.
Okay.
But as you can imagine, there's a fair amount of industries that could use this technology. I'm
Right.
talking about like travel and real estate and retail, all the places that have a physical space that they need to bring attention to in order to drive more sales.
Mhm.
They really like the idea of people being able to travel an avatar in there and explore and shop and etc. So,
Oh, I would love that, yeah. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
imagine all the people who are, jonesing for some retail therapy.
yes. Like to be able
Yeah.
to, instead of going on Amazon, we like to say we're the difference between shopping and buying. On the internet, you do a lot
Right,
of buying,
right,
right?
right,
Like, I need to
right.
get this thing and I'm going to search it and buy it. Whereas if you're in something like Wormhole and you can walk around a Forever 21 and you
Uh-huh.
can tap on end caps and then buy those items, our precision is very good. So
Mhm.
if you say, tag a item and then drop a animated 3D icon onto it so you can
Uh-huh.
tap and go directly to the website for it, it can get very precise. So
Wow.
being able to like kind of walk around and shop like you're actually there is a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's part of our activations, which when we move towards our global launch, which is coming pretty soon, you're going to see a lot of those. And then on the
Right.
influencer side, just because it's my bread and butter, imagine the people who do like shoe drops or clothing drops and people are waiting in lines outside of stores. Well, now you can have that kind of physical representation of people waiting in line, but also people can wormhole their avatar in and kind of like wait in line virtually as well.
Right.
So they can do 1,000 sales there. They can do another 10,000 that are limited time only through kind of this virtual line. And then everyone can
Right.
talk to each other and hang out and build community.
Wow. That's awesome. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's very cool. Because I know, back when I launched Mom TV,
Mhm.
which was a live streaming network, we had 90 programmed shows a week,
Wow, that's great.
from Moms on Prozac,
Mhm.
literally. I mean, that was the name of a show,
Yeah.
to Moms of Multiples, etc.
Mhm.
And um, one of the things that we were trying to work on was whenever a mom, let's say she was talking, because we had all the top mommy bloggers doing shows.
Cool. Love it.
So they brought their audience with
Yeah.
them whenever they did that. But people wanted to, sponsor or have a product that they could sell and, click on the screen and be taken. And that was, 2009. I mean,
Yeah.
we're still trying to get that right. So
Mhm.
I'm excited about that because it's a problem that hasn't really been solved, and it's crazy that it hasn't been solved,
Yeah.
in a creative way. And this sounds like amazing. You know, I would be shopping all day. So I wouldn't be
I
on
love it.
Facebook. I would just
Right.
be
And
wormholing.
that's part of it is like, how do you make shopping fun again? How do you make social media fun again? I wake up every
Right.
day inspired by thinking those thoughts, right? Like,
Right.
oftentimes when you're on something like Facebook or Twitter, you lose the fun very quickly because you don't feel like it's participatory media, right? It
Right.
feels like you're just kind of watching things go on. That creates FOMO. There's no
Mhm.
outlet for it. Depression rates go up, the funnel.
Right.
Whereas if you're doing something like Wormhole, where you can not only travel somewhere but participate, read social media posts, then chat with the people as avatars, etc. Like, you can shop by walking down the Champs-Elysees and seeing a
Mhm.
small shop and then being able to tap into it and buy things. Like, that's what really excites me. So
Right.
a lot of the activations are going to be a little less feeling like commercials because we live in a commercial world and this is a
Right.
live representation of the world. So
Right.
you can kind of have the optionality to jump into a store if you want and to do very kind of light touch brand stuff if you don't want, right?
Nice. So I'm a user and I enjoy it, and I'm, doing, shopping and visiting and being super social. How are you picking influencers, or how can somebody participate on a different level than just be the user experiencing the immersive creation you have?
Yeah, so we've got some great influencers lined up for the global launch, which is again coming soon.
Right, right.
We've got the all the plans in place. The product is done. Now we're just kind of ramping up with strategy to make sure right place, right time.
Right.
Um, and yeah, it's been kind of proactive outreach right now because nobody knows about our platform, right? We're kind
Sure.
of a little stealthy.
Right.
But as we move forward, I think we're going to develop our own stars. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is on all other social platforms, there's kind of two ways to be discovered. Either somebody searching and finds you, or somebody kind of shares content and that's how they find you, right? Like,
Mhm.
or I guess number three is the algorithm just kind of surfaces you, but that's
Mhm.
kind of part and parcel to sharing. In
Right.
Wormhole, you can kind of get attention by the space and time you are in, right? So, like, if you're somebody who goes to the Eiffel Tower, there's a lot of people who naturally within Wormhole will go to the Eiffel Tower just because it's a
Mhm.
place they want to visit.
Right.
So, you're kind of more of a space and time influencer. Those people will grow very quickly, and then they're going to kind of become the advocates for community management
Oh.
and activations around those places. So it'll be really interesting. I think you'll see more people on Wormhole, going every day to the Santa Monica Pier or something
Mhm.
people really know. And that's going to be their job because they're just really great at going there and community managing and pushing sales.
Nice. And how about for monetization? Granted, you're going to have people, brands pay you for contracts,
Mhm.
but uh, how are the influencers? Are they under a same different contract to get paid for their work? Um,
Yeah.
okay.
So there's a few ways that monetization will happen on this platform, and it'll sound like a lot of disparate things, but it all comes together into one beautiful unified
Okay.
thing. So one is because everybody is represented as avatars, avatar skins and clothing items and stuff is that's like the obvious monetization that everything that's
Sure.
avatar based does.
Okay.
So that's a part of it. Two is we're able to participate in revenue shares on the shoppable links that are in the world. Right now,
Okay.
we're doing it through affiliates, but we're just doing that to kind of aggregate data around it so that we can figure out how we're going to launch larger to
Okay.
brands. and to see if there's programmatic ways where mom and pop shops can play along too that don't have the affiliate things.
Sure.
So that'll be a big part of it. Shoppable live video is very buzzy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, it's, when you look at the e-commerce being what, a $3 trillion global business every year,
Right.
the ability to combine content and commerce is a very big deal. So we built in a product where you can overlay a shoppable link on video,
Mm-hmm.
and then that can drive sales. So that'll be a big part of the monetization
Wow.
mix.
Okay.
And then number 4 is our API and SDK. So if you think about Wormhole, it's kind of built out in layers. You've got the globe layer, then on top of that, you got the avatar layer, and you've got the social media layer. It's just kind of like this strata of layers. So the ability to build a layer like, say, real estate, where people can toggle on that layer and toggle on everything off and see every home that's for sale,
Wow.
that would be very valuable to someone like a Remax or a Berkshire Hathaway or,
Right.
Keller Williams or name it.
Right.
So we're working with a lot of those businesses to build out those layers, and then it would either be a license or a revenue split for those.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. Now, I'm looking into the future because this is out there, but it's here.
Yeah.
What do you see as Wormhole evolving into?
Yeah.
Um, Global domination?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, the part of making a new technology category, like there's really nobody competing in this exact space. There's metaverses, but they're all in fictional worlds. There's
Right.
social media that's for the real world, but they're not a metaverse. We're kind of
Right.
the first ones to launch and heavily patent. We've got 10 very broad patents on this technology. So we're going to go out very, very big.
Uh-huh.
Where it's going to evolve to, since we built it in Unity, which is a really great kind of 3-dimensional platform, even though we're launching on smartphones just because there's 3.5 billion of them in the world and they're very
Right.
efficient creation engines,
Right.
it's nimble enough that VR, AR devices, it's a very light reskin in order to do that. Internet of Things, drones that capture content and location can start putting that imagery in. Like it's a nimble enough platform that it can kind
Wow.
of expand there. So what I see is I see us hitting mass scale on smartphones for the next few years. And
Uh-huh.
then if a device were to rise to take the place of smartphones, like maybe someone nails AR glasses, I'm not hopeful that'll happen in the next 3 years, but I think it will happen within the next 10. We're going to
Uh-huh.
be ready to be the number 1 social network on those as well.
Would I can just see that in my mind's eye, and that
Yeah.
would be so amazing to
Yeah, we
have.
always laugh about it being like Terminator vision. Like, who's going to develop the thing where I can have the glasses on and look around and say, oh, that's somebody who I'm friends with, or that's somebody I have mutual friends with, and to be
Right.
able to kind of like do a kind of hand motion to chat with them. And then we're saying, hey, we're sharing friends. And then if I'm in a place like Coachella and I go alone and I don't know anyone, I can immediately make friends based on our connections.
Right.
Nothing does that yet. And we're going to be
Right.
the thing that goes and does that.
Wow, that is so exciting. I can see it in your face how like you're like, I have all the candy.
I feel very blessed, yes, and I do feel like I have all the candy. This feels like an inevitable part of the future, and we're running at it really hard. So it's been very exciting.
So how do you see this folding into entertainment as a whole, like television, movies? You have
Yeah.
planned for that?
I think this concept of layers is going to play very well into that. So a lot of people say, oh, you're like Pokemon Go. And we say, well, no, because we're more social and less of a game. We're not
Right.
like Pokemon Go, but the next Pokemon Go could be built as a layer within Wormhole. So that someone
Mhm.
can toggle on like if Pokemon Go, there's a game called Monster Hunter that's kind of like a little
Right.
bit more of an adult Pokemon Go. If
Mhm.
Monster Hunter wants to come in and do a layer in Wormhole where you're going out and capturing monsters, you just kind of toggle that, everything else goes away, and now you're monster hunting. I
Fun.
believe that that's a way that kind of bigger IP can play along, right? So I see it in kind of this layer strategy where anyone can build anything. Like Lego comes in, and I want the whole world to be recognized as Legos. Well, let's
Bricks,
build that
right.
skin, yeah, as bricks. Let's have that overlay everything in the world, and then you can go into Lego world. So
Right.
that would be fun. But also this idea of tying content to space and time and
Mhm.
having that become why it's important. I think is going to be a big part of our future of media consumption. So I'm not just watching red carpet footage, but I'm wormholing into the red carpet. I'm seeing streams from everybody that's there. So I can see the Entertainment Tonight producer, and then I can go see the NBC or the E1 or et cetera. And then I can actually go into the theater and see the chatter and the social media posts from the actual stars.
Wow,
I think it's going to be a more immersive environment for that as well. So brands that want to play along with that, and entertainment brands, I think are going to be onto something that's really cutting edge.
I interviewed Jenny Powell,
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love Jenny.
yesterday, and immersive technology is like her big trending, love, if you will. So she's absolutely another person that's validating the what you have to look for in the future.
Well, it's funny when you want to look towards what's going to be the next big thing. I always say like there's whispers before screams, and if you listen hard enough, you can hear the whispers. And I'm seeing what's growing is Clubhouse is a smash hit right now, which shows that people want to have kind of dark social communities where people can come in and congregate around a certain topic.
Right.
I'm seeing things like Discord really grow, which is like, how do I find my own space for my own passions? And then I'm seeing things like Citizen really grow. And like what Snap has said, like Snap has come out and said Snap Maps is a big part of our future. A lot of people go, Snap Maps, that kind of failed, didn't it? Well, there's a reason why they're doing that. It's because there's this location-based content ideas really starting to catch, right? And then of course AR and VR, you hear the whispers of that. Everyone's running in that direction. So if you combine all those three things together, it starts to look a whole lot like Wormhole, right? So we're hearing the whispers now, and when the screams start, then we're going to be well positioned to be the one that answers.
That's awesome. I love that. I worked in Silicon Valley for 8 years in startups. So and before the bubble burst in 2001. So I'm just a little bit ahead of you on that, getting stuck there.
Sure.
But I love technology. Both of us, part of the Television Academy Interactive Media Group with all the nerds. So
you bet. I love it. I love our little nerd crew. I haven't been able to, because of COVID, but even before that, I was so entrenched, especially at Facebook, where I just didn't have time to communicate with them. But I love that I can now jump onto the Zooms that they do. It's really cool.
Yeah. And having the conversations about what's next. Because we're all kind of looking at, where are we going and what's the direction and where should we be looking? And you're right, whispers and looking at just the little things, and then evaluating for yourself is what do I think about this technology? Where do I see it going?
Right.
And just hearing, the basis of what you guys have built and then the possibilities is really, it's exciting, because now I kind of feel like we're seeing those sci-fi movies that we saw in the 90s and early 2000s, all the futuristic stuff. It's now, even that much closer for us.
Oh, yeah. And frankly, I think that there's still a lot of room for 23-year-olds to become billionaires right now by asking themselves a very simple question, like, what's difficult or inaccessible right now? And how do you make it less difficult using mobile technologies or advanced technologies, right? Like Robinhood's a perfect example. Stock market's confusing. I don't know how to play along. That's kept a lot of kids out of it. Like, and then you just look at the things like Ameritrade, and they're all made for 40 or 50-year-olds. Like, if you're a 23-year-old person, how do I play along with the stock market? Well, Robinhood made it feel a whole heck of a lot like a mobile game, right? That's how you do it. And like Carvana with car buying. Like, if you think about every industry that way, like, I'll just throw one out that I haven't thought about, but let's brainstorm on it. Like real estate, right? It feels pretty expensive to get a real estate agent. It feels like it's expensive so that you can go kind of fill out the contracts and go do the home tours. But shouldn't there be a way where you kind of do that yourself, or have it be more peer-to-peer? Like whoever cracks that market and makes like the Airbnb for real estate, even commercial real estate, and so you're keeping that 3% to 5% instead. That's a many billion-dollar industry, and nobody's done it yet. So if anybody out there has a computer science degree or a business degree, they can. Those are the kind of lanes you can run in.
Here's where you send the check for my
exactly. I could throw out 50 of those ideas today that I guarantee will be built in the next 10 years, and it's not going to be me. So,
well, you have your hands full, I think, with what you're doing there. That's super, super awesome. So, anything else coming up that we should watch for? Like the date whenever you're making the announcement?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to hear more in the next 30, 60, 90 days
Okay.
probably, which will be very exciting.
Mhm.
And that's when we're going to kind of start teasing, trickling to press announcements, which will be cool
Okay.
because we have the whole timeline. We're just not allowed to release it.
No,
Uh,
I'm just teasing you. I'm just trying to do that hard-hitting news
oh
reporting.
yeah,
Tell me
totally.
the date. Tell me it now.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so much exciting stuff going on in social right now. This is going to be a very big year for live again, as last year was.
Mhm.
It's going to be a really big year for kind of startups, especially fintech. I think this GameStop thing that's going on right now is releasing a genie from the bottle that's not going to go back in. It's going to, if Coinbase does their direct public offering, buy quickly, it would be my advice.
Okay.
Robinhood's brand might have been hurt a little bit by all the stuff that's come out, but look at the other ones that are doing the same thing Robinhood is. And if they do
Mhm.
IPOs or DPOs, I would buy into those quickly because that's a big part of the future. I
Mhm.
think you're going to see a lot of stuff when it comes to how brands play with creators in new and interesting ways. I think gone are the days where we're just buying them for shout outs. I
Mhm.
think there's going to be a lot more kind of co-branded merchandise and Logan Paul boxing matches. And like these are going to be the kind of, I think Mr. Beast again released a genie from a bottle you can't put back in, which is how do you not just make a branded video and hope it goes viral, but how do you generate virality because you're making something that's unmistakably loud.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just this year in social media is just going to be fantastic.
And I think more innovation too, because
Yeah,
we're still home again, right? We're not,
yeah,
COVID changed, COVID was a pain, but it also changed the course of a lot
oh yeah.
of commerce, right?
Oh yeah, and they said that what McKinsey said that it accelerated e-commerce by 5 years. Internal projections for live video that I was able to see from other companies, it's accelerated by 3 or 4 years. Like you,
Right.
a lot of people were like my parents for the first time ever learned how to use Grubhub and House Party and
Okay.
Instacart. And I'm sure a
Right.
lot of people's parents, it was their first time learning these things. And now
Mhm.
that they've seen that it's convenient and not scary, they're now over that technology gap and they're going to
Right.
start using it for the long term. So I
Right.
hate new normal because everyone says new normal, but there's
Yeah,
kind of a
it's
new
not.
normal. So
Yeah.
it's accelerated everything, which is really fun.
Well, what's worse is hearing people say, "Well, when COVID's over and we can go back to normal." I'm like, Yeah, no."
Yeah, this is the normal now. Like
Right.
Instacart is a big deal now, and people
Right.
have to like figure that out and play along, or like
Right.
it's just so convenient. There's so many conveniences that have always been there, but now this forced us to enjoy these conveniences.
Right. And it's forcing companies to pivot and actually, look at what is happening in the world and make
Yeah.
decisions to either survive or, thrive or, goodbye,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh,
Just
absolutely.
just a wake up call. But
Oh yeah, I've
I'm
been shocked to see how many companies that were entrenched in old ways of doing things that jumped on. Like now you can go to Ralph's has direct delivery now, right? Like there's
Mhm.
all these companies that were like, well, people just kept going to our mega grocery stores forever, and that's that. And it's
Right.
like they've been forced into the 21st century, so good for
Mhm.
them.
Well, I'll tell you here in Albuquerque, whenever the pandemic and we had shutdowns and everything, the lines at certain stores, like a Costco or a big,
Yeah,
Sam's Club, those kind of stores, they would be around the building, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, and slowly you're seeing more people start using delivery service, and those
yeah,
lines got a lot less. In fact, the Target down the road from us, right before Christmas, there was nobody in line, and I'm like, how can
right.
that be? Because it was prior to that, they had lines and lines, and then they had blocked off a whole section, not three
Yeah.
spaces, like 25 spaces for people picking up.
Oh yeah. Well, the most brilliant thing that's happened during COVID in terms of big companies playing along is the speed by which Walmart started putting out their curbside pickup messaging.
Right.
Like the
Right.
second COVID started, immediately they were running all these splashy ads that were like curbside pickup, order from your phone, and then we'll bring it right out to you. Just open your trunk, and I'm like,
Right.
man, their
They were
team
on top
deserves
of
a
it.
huge pat on the
Yeah.
back because they nailed it like in April.
Right. Yeah, and so many didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
they were, "Oh, it's gonna get better because it's getting warmer." And I'm like, "It's not getting better."
Yeah, evolve or die. That's the world we live in. And like they evolved. And a lot of places, I mean, it sucks because the mom and pops don't have that option.
Right.
But also there was a lot of innovative companies that came up to like save mom and pops. Like there's a website called Bookshop
Mhm,
that lets you shop local bookstores. And it's done a wonderful job during the pandemic of connecting people to local bookstores to keep them alive.
mhm.
Or the power of the crowd, right? AMC is now saved. It was
Right.
on the verge of bankruptcy, and then a Reddit thread popped up that's like, AMC, we want movie theaters to survive, and we also want to screw Wall Street, and we can
Right.
achieve both by buying up all this stuff. Now, whether or not that was legal, I'll leave that to lawyers to decide.
Right.
But it saved you have to admit it saved
Right.
AMC. They're not going under now, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, the whole stock market thing is, I'm still watching to see what the Justice Department
Yeah.
decides on that because
It's hard
it
to like, can you really sue the crowd? That's the tough thing is
right,
like if enough
right.
people do something, like is Reddit to blame? I don't think so
No, but
because
when
of
people
the
right, when people wanna support a business, they buy stock. Like, I
yep.
buy Apple or I buy, Adobe or whatever. You're buying, stock because you wanna participate in that,
Right.
business's success, so why would it be a problem?
And Jim Cramer's been going on TV for 20 years saying this stock's hot, this stock's
Right,
not. Like
exactly,
this is
yelling
just
at
this
you.
with the power of the crowd. Like I mean it's
Right.
I think it's shown what a fuzzy line it is between like price fixing and
Mhm.
just people giving recommendations cuz everyone's like this is the it's exposed the deep dark secret of Wall Street, which is because of the volume of cash they're playing with, they're all
Mhm.
price fixing, right? Like
Right. Well, look at
so
the show Billions, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
100%. So,
Mhm.
like, what's the difference between somebody with billions of dollars price fixing by
Right.
pumping and dumping and
Mhm.
the power of the crowd putting billions of dollars in it and price fixing, but it happens to be 2 million people doing it instead of one billionaire? Like, it's
Right.
a very, very tricky line. And I'm fascinated to see what the Justice Department does with this.
Yeah, me too. We'll definitely be watching. And I'm going to be watching for more about Wormhole Hole Labs. Gosh, I can't even say it now. So excited.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind. And I saw your little teaser video, and I can't wait to see more. So,
Absolutely. Well, I'll send you over a beta as soon as I'm able to so you can play. It'll be a Pardon Our Dust beta, but it'll be
okay.
fun.
Oh, no, that'll be awesome. I love that. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today, Phil. We look forward to it, and we'll be sharing more info about Wormhole Labs as we get it from you. So thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
All right, take care and
You
stay
too.
safe.